Every day, millions of school children rise to their feet, place their tiny hands on their hearts, and make a mockery of the United States of America. They don't mean to, of course, it's just that we've told them it's the appropriate thing to do. I'm referring to the ritual of performing the Pledge of Allegiance, of course, the most commonly practiced act of committing oneself to treason against this country. Now, I know what you're thinking, but the Pledge of Allegiance is by definition an act of patriotism, not treason. Well, that's what it once was, and that's what it's still supposed to be. But for the last 59 years or so, make no mistake about it, it's been treason. Because the United States Congress and President Eisenhower betrayed their country by signing it into law that the pledge include the words, "under God." The addition of these words is an abomination, and I believe it's vital to the well-being of this great nation that they be removed immediately. Many Americans disagree with this, but they are all wrong. Some argue out of ignorance, no doubt, that the Pledge of Allegiance should be left as it was originally written and that we shouldn't change it now. Well, I half agree with that. I think it should be left the way it was originally written, but we need to change it now. You see, the pledge has already been altered several times, and as it was originally written by a Baptist minister, as it so happens, it did not include the words "under God." The Pledge of Allegiance was originally written by Minister Francis Bellamy for a children's magazine called the Youth's Companion. It was published in September of 1892 to commemorate the 400th anniversary of Columbus's arrival in the New World. It originally read, "I pledge allegiance to my flag, for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all." That sounds good to me. But the first revision came in 1923, when the words "my flag" were replaced by the flag of the United States of America. A subtle change, sure, but I like it. It's still good. But then in 1954, largely in response to the communist threat of the times, and a rousing church sermon he'd heard on the subject, President Dwight Eisenhower encouraged Congress to make yet another change. In a bill first introduced to the House of Representatives on February 8, 1954 by Representative Charles Oakman, and later to the Senate on March 10, 1954 by Senator Homer Ferguson, it was proposed to officially add the words "under God" to the Pledge of Allegiance. The Cold War was going strong, and those godless commies were on everybody's mind. And what better way to separate ourselves from them than to declare our own holiness? So Congress approved the joint resolution, and Eisenhower opted to sign the bill into law on June 14, 1954, Flag Day. Ever since that day, it has read, "I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all." Another seemingly subtle change, but this time, no good. Now, many feel that the Pledge of Allegiance including the phrase "under God" is a good thing, because most of the United States believes in a God of some kind. And while that does appear to be true, however, though they may be a minority, there are still many who believe in multiple gods and or goddesses, and there are also those who believe in none at all. Is the Pledge of Allegiance to our country not supposed to be equally as much for one person as it is to the next, regardless of their gender, race, or creed? Yes, it most assuredly is. And I can answer this with so much confidence because I've read the United States Constitution, the most accurate representation of the country and the flag to which we are attempting to pledge our allegiance. It's the foundation upon which our nation stands. Now, the First Amendment to our Constitution reads, "Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof." Again, Congress shall make no law. Well, they did make a law. Respecting an establishment of a religion? Well, the words "under God" clearly establish a religious belief of some kind, even if it is somewhat generic. So it sounds like we might have a problem. The hypocrisy of this entire debate would be laughable if it weren't so bad. We're supposed to be pledging our allegiance to a country and its standards that we hold very dear to us, the standards of rights set by the Constitution, the very same constitutional rights and values that we're violating by including the words "under God" in the pledge. In an attempt to praise our values, we're destroying them. The irony is rampant, but I'm not laughing. I've heard it often argued that if the United States Pledge of Allegiance no longer contains the phrase "under God," it'd be forcing in some way atheistic views on some people. How? What about the phrase "one nation, indivisible" is suggestive in establishing whether the person reciting it does or does not believe in a god or many gods? The subject of religion simply was not put into play. No introduction, no conclusion, no problem. Let's look at it another way. If I were to hear you say something such as, "I love my child," or "I'm a student," would I be able to make an accurate claim that you must be atheist or that you denounce any god or religion? Of course not. True, there's nothing saying that you do believe in any god, but there's also nothing saying that you don't. Therefore, no reasonable conclusion can be reached because the subject was never approached. Now, on the other hand, if I were to hear you saying something like, I trust in the word of the Lord, or I am a child of God, would I be able to make any claim regarding certain parts of your established religious views? Absolutely, yes. I could reasonably draw the conclusion that you believe in a higher power, a deity, your Lord God, and that you trust in the leadership of that God. I could also reasonably assume that you worship or believe in only one God and not many gods, because in your statement you referred to him in singular, not plural form. Okay, so having established that, what is so atheist about the following words? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, the subject of religion was not put into play. There's no introduction, no conclusion. Fair enough. The reciter of this pledge can wholeheartedly and sincerely speak every word of it and give no indication as to his or her religious standings. No religion or system of beliefs is challenged, insulted, or endorsed. It's been suggested that those who wish to not say the words under God should simply omit them during recitation. This is missing the point. Think about any instance where you've heard someone botch the national anthem, for example. People go crazy, right? Because it's a very specifically worded song that's expected, as it should be, to be recited in full. Otherwise, it would seem incomplete, insufficient, and possibly even insincere. It's the same feeling of incompleteness that one would feel in omitting certain words from the pledge. Such a thing shouldn't be suggested as a fair and reasonable solution. We should all, as Americans, be able to state our pledge of allegiance to our country in full and feel as though it represents our way of life. Returning the pledge to its original form, or to any form that adheres to constitutional law, would not prevent anyone from reciting the words under God, or anything else for that matter. In fact, it's quite the contrary. The same constitutional right that's given in our First Amendment says you have every right to do just that. The First Amendment offers the same protection to everyone by stating you have the freedom to believe and say whatever you want, so long as those beliefs are not established by the government. So if you wanted to add the words under God to the pledge as you recite it to give a personal flair to your version, then go right ahead. I doubt anyone would take issue with you adding a personal touch, as long as they aren't required to do the same. So basically, say under God all you want. That's your right. Just don't make it the law. That's my right. Rather, they're both rights to which each of us are entitled and which we should all respect and hold true, whether we feel like they directly affect us or not. Now, if that point didn't reach you as much as I hope it did, consider this. Our pledge states this: one nation, under God, indivisible. You say anyone doesn't like it can simply omit those words. Sounds easy enough, yeah? Okay, well, imagine it said this instead: one nation, under Satan, indivisible. Would you still be satisfied by the two-word omission rule? No? Well, then maybe there's a problem after all. Now, I've tried to make this point to invoke the walk a mile in someone else's shoes kind of feeling, but I must remind you that this was merely a side note. The real point to all of this is that the existence of these words in the pledge is hypocritical and, more importantly, unconstitutional. That's why the official omission of these words is what is needed. Anything less should be considered treason. With all of the worry these days about terrorism throughout the world, we're always concerned about the extremes others will go to in order to destroy our values. We say they can destroy our tallest buildings, but they can't break our spirits. They can hijack our planes, but they can't take away our way of life. No, they cannot. They don't need to. We're doing that ourselves, and no one seems to care. Restore the integrity of the Pledge of Allegiance and the country that it represents, for the sake of the children and for everyone else.